The media lives up to its reputation, doesn't it? But the truth has undermined your foundation, with so many people now in the know. Yeah, you figured it out. You'd see the day that you could just get away from the ones you betrayed, who raised their voices to say you won't be trusted anymore. All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're situated on this great, big, beautiful blue globe floating through the void of Yah's creation. It is the 18th of December, 2025. It's a Thursday. And these are the WTF reports. I'm Dave vonKleist with the facts, WTF. And if the facts make you exclaim, WTF, well, then so be it. Anyway, the Thursday edition is brought to you in part by the Wave Watch. As always, frequency is the key. That's what Tesla tried to tell us, and that's what Royal Raymond Rife figured out. Frequencies will help cells thrive, and they can destroy bacteria, viruses, and all kinds of bugaboos. And I just want to let you know that the Wave Watch folks have got a big sale. They got a few more of these refurbished 2.0 Wave Watches, and are selling them at 25% off. So please take advantage of it. What a great Christmas gift. The gift of frequency and health. Wow, think about that, folks. So please go to our website, the WTF Reports. You'll have a pop-up there that'll take you to all the information about the Wave Watch and how you can get one at a discounted price. And by the way, if you've got the original Wave Watch, the first one that came out, the squarish one, they've got 50% off of the SIM card that updates all the frequencies. So, this is the time. If you're going to get one, if you've been on the fence, this is the time. Get one for Christmas. You better hurry up, too, because it might not get there in time. So go to our website, TheWTFReports.com, and go to the pop-up window, and that'll get you a Wave Watch. All right, that said, I'm going to turn the clock back a bit. I want to tell you a little story that happened 25 years ago, and, 24 years ago. And this is a perfect example of how the media will manipulate, twist, lie, fabricate, gaslight, and propagandize. Back in the summer of 2001, this is before the 9/11 attacks, there was an issue that was going on up in Klamath Falls, Oregon. Now, anybody up in that area, if you can tag some of the people in that area that may recall the crisis that was going on with the farmers and the ranchers there, their water had been shut off by the Bureau of Land Management. The head gate that retained the water for the Klamath Lake had been shut because the feds had said, yes, there's a drought going on and there's a suckerfish in the Klamath Lake whose life is threatened. Yeah, they're facing extinction. So we have to shut the head gates and let that water level get back up there to save the suckerfish. And, of course, the mainstream networks, the alphabet networks were all, screaming environmentalism, and we have to save the suckerfish, save the suckerfish. Meanwhile, downstream from where the head gate had been shut off, the farmers and the ranchers were struggling. They didn't have water for their fields. They didn't have water for their livestock. And that was the point, to destroy the farmers and ranchers and deplete the value or decrease the value of their land so the feds could buy it pennies on the dollar. That was sort of the plan. Well, all of the locals in that area they basically put together a rally. And there were truckers that came from the tri-state area, from Northern California, Oregon, Idaho, Washington State, and they were bringing water into Klamath Falls. And there was a huge rally, great big parade. And people from all over the area had come. And I got a phone call, and somebody told me about this. So I decided, and this is when, of course, I was living in Missouri, and Joyce and I were doing the Power Hour radio show. And if you're curious, use the Wayback Machine and go to thepowerhour.com. You can check it out. But anyway, I digress. So I decided I wanted to go up there and cover this particular event. So I flew up to Klamath Falls, and I saw how the media had been manipulating and twisting and basically trashing the people that were organizing this event. Oh, you're a bunch of conspiracy theorists, you're this and that and blah, blah, blah. So the organizers were trying to avoid the media. Well, I was out there interviewing people on the street. I had my little portable recorder, and I was talking to people and say, what's the story here? How did this go down? And blah, blah, blah. And one of the main organizers, her name was Barbara, and I can't remember her last name. But anyway, I guess she overheard how I was handling my interviews with some of the farmers and ranchers. And so she granted me an interview. And so I went to her office, and she explained the whole situation, and I had it, on audio and video. I brought my video recorder, and so anyway, I was there for the event. I videotaped the big parade. Oh, somebody had built like a huge bucket that was symbolic of the water, and anyway, there was a great big bucket on a flatbed, and I got video footage of that too. So anyway, so I was there for this big rally and this event. And then I flew back to Missouri. Well, about a week later, I get a phone call from Barbara. And she says, hey, Dave, I so much appreciate the coverage that you did. You were honest about it and blah, blah, blah. And I want to give you a heads up. The farmers and ranchers have had enough. We are going to storm the head gate this coming weekend. And I just wanted to let you know in case you want to be there. And I went, whoa, this should be interesting. So I booked a flight, and as a matter of fact, I also booked a flight with, what was his name? Kevin something or other. He was a former police officer. And so anyway, Kevin and I flew up there, and we went to the head gate. And of course, there was a big rally, and all these people were there. And I was there to, again, interview all these people and videotape the event. So I got up there, and yep, they stormed the head gate. It was a very emotional, patriotic thing. So I got there and I videotaped the event. The whole thing went down. I went back to Missouri. So what happens? I get a phone call from Alex Jones. Now, I will remind you, for those of you who don't know the background, the Power Hour radio show was on the GCN radio network. We were a 3-hour morning drive show. Actually, I think we were 2 hours at that time. Anyway, whatever. And after our show, there was a 1-hour show with Derry Brownfield. And then after Derry Brownfield was the Alex Jones show. So anyway, I got a phone call from Alex. And of course, Alex was, the guy for conspiracy documentaries. He'd produced documentaries about Waco and Ruby Ridge and the Montana Freeman, et cetera, et cetera. So he was the guy to make all of these documentary films of alternative news. So he contacts me, hey, Dave, I heard you just got back from Klamath Falls. So, yeah, Alex, I got some great footage. Hey, well, listen, why don't you send it over to me? We can put this thing out here. And, I said, no, Alex, I haven't had time to even go through it. I just got back like the day before yesterday. Yeah, that's okay. I've got all the facilities here. We can do that. And Alex, just chill. I got to see what's on here first. Well, wouldn't you know, a couple days after that, 9/11 happened. Yeah. And that sort of just took that whole project and put it on the back burner. But the point is, I wanted to tell you, is that the media had manipulated, twisted, lied, et cetera, and I had all the footage. I still have it somewhere. I have no idea where it is. It's probably in a box someplace. But the point is that whole issue was just all of a sudden, ignored with what happened with the 9/11 thing. But anyway, if anybody's out there that can tag Alex, say, hey, Alex, you want me to go find that footage? Are you still interested? But I think he was kind of PO'd with me because I wouldn't just give him the footage. And I think this is probably one of the reasons why he got, upset with me. But anyway, I wanted to share that with you. If there's anybody out there in the Klamath Falls region, I ask that you reach out, tag them, have them reach out to me. I'd love to get an update on what happened with the situation. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that story out there because I do have a little bit of a history with Alex. And of course, after the 9/11 thing, I produced the 9/11 In Plain Sight documentary, and that thing went viral, and it went all over the world. It was on television in Europe. It was on in Japan. It was on in Australia. As a matter of fact, one of the members of the Japanese parliament When he saw the documentary, he called an emergency session of parliament in Japan, and the Japanese parliament watched it, and the next day they withdrew all support from the Middle East. Of course, we know what had happened over there with Saddam Hussein and all that. Yes, Saddam was still alive by the time. That thing was still going on. But anyway, I just wanted to share that little, that little trip down memory lane. For some reason, that thing popped into my head, and I just wanted to share that story with you because it just reinforces the idea that the media is not your friend. They are not your friend. And this is why I wrote a song about one of the callers a couple of weeks ago reminded me of this song. I'd forgotten all about it, and the verse is as follows.
If you label as unstable all the ones who disagree, you take away the right of speaking out and thinking free. If the founders were so labeled, then where would our country be? We wouldn't have our freedom or our precious liberty.
All right, so again, the lyric is, if you label as unstable all the ones who disagree, you take away their right of speaking out and thinking free. If our founders were so labeled, then where would our country be? You wouldn't have your freedom or your precious liberty. And those words stand today. And now we move into the next topic of discussion, which is going to be verboten. You're not supposed to talk about certain things, but that's all the more reason to talk about them. And that is certain things that you cannot discuss. And then, because you're going to be attacked, you're going to be deplatformed. For instance, during the pandemic, if you talk about, all the side effects of the hokey pokey thingy dingy, if you were to dare challenge the science, trust the science. Yeah. Well, if you were to dare to do that, you would be, you would be severely, shall we say, disadvantaged. People lost their jobs. You all know the drill. And now it's all coming out about that. But the point is that we are going to be facing, we're already facing a deluge, but it hasn't even really started yet. We're going to be facing a deluge of propaganda in this coming year because there are so many people noticing. That noticing is going on all over the world. Noticing what, Dave? Noticing Zionism. Noticing what Israel is doing. Noticing the propaganda. Noticing shall we say, the projections. Okay, when I say projections, a projection is when you accuse somebody else of doing something that you're doing. Or you basically, you say this is going to happen, and then it happens, and you blame it on somebody else. Sort of like a false flag. But Clayton Morris and his wife Natalie were talking about this, about the simple fact that there's going to be a lot of propaganda going to be thrown our way to support the murderous regime over there in Israel. Now, again, I don't want people to be confused. I don't want people to get, get their knickers in a bunch. Because, there's such a strong effort right now to basically link Zionism with Judaism. All right? They are two different things. And it's I put together a little meme here. I posted it. It says, all you people screaming anti-Semitism, get it through your head. Judaism and Zionism are not the same. Zionism is political, racial, supremacist dogma. Judaism is a religion based on God's commandments. So those who are linking the two together are manipulating the public to further Zionism. And Zionism is contrary to God's commandments. And with that, I refer to Mossad's motto. They say, quote, by deception thou shalt make war. That statement, unquote, that statement alone breaks two commandments. By deception, right there. Deception is lying. One of the commandments is, thou shalt not bear false witness. So right there, they're liars. And the other one, by deception, thou shalt make war. In other words, you go out and kill people. Well, the other commandment is thou shalt not murder. Now, it's not thou shalt not kill. I mean, if that was the case, then the sons of Jacob and David and all the other people who waged a holy war would be roasting in hell right now. There's a big difference between murdering people and killing people. I don't condone either one, but, if some guy comes into my house brandishing a gun and threatening me and my friends and my family, yes, they will face the consequences. Now, that would not be murder if I shot him, but, so there is a big difference. And I wanted to point that out because, like I said, the powers that be want to confuse the world population so that they think that Zionism is Judaism, but it is not. It's sort of like the definition of Semitism, okay? As a matter of fact, I pulled up that definition, and the definition here, according to my dictionary on my computer, I looked up the word Semite. A Semite, defined, it's a noun, and it says, a Semite is a member of any of the peoples who speak or spoke a Semitic language, including, in particular, the Jews and Arabs. So, Jews and Arabs, if they speak a Semitic language, they are the Semites. Now, if it's about a language, and I mentioned this before a few weeks ago on the show, it says right there, a member of any of the peoples who speak or spoke a Semitic language. All right? However, you look up the word anti-Semite, let's see if it says anything about language. No, it says it's a noun. An anti-Semite, noun. A person who is hostile or prejudiced against Jewish people. How did we get from speaking about a Semitic language to speaking about a particular religious group? This is the word play that's it's being manipulated. And those of you regular listeners on this show, I'm sure you all know the difference. But unfortunately, the unwashed masses, they get their information, and they feed on the intellectual fecal matter being pumped at them by the networks, and including all of the cable networks, and that includes the conservative networks. I have no love for Newsmax or OAN or Real America's News, especially Real America's News. They are just pumping the heck out of that. But I just wanted to let you know because there's going to be a real serious ramping up of propaganda being thrown at the people of the world on behalf of the Israelis. Now, like I said, Clayton Morris, he has a podcast called Redacted. He and his wife, Natalie, posted the following. And there's a little clip in here with Ben Shapiro. But I wanted to play this clip because you need to get a heads up. It's coming, folks, like a freight train.
That's not what Zionists say when they argue with you on X. They say Israel doesn't need your money. They don't need your goodwill. They're fine without it.
The U.S. foreign assistance for Israel actually is a bargain for the United States because Israel doesn't need the money. I've said this before. Israel
give it to us.
But the Israeli government is saying, yeah, we do, because the Israeli Knesset has approved an enormous public relations campaign worth about $729 million.
Whoa. What happened there? $729 million? The Knesset is going to be pumping that much money into their propaganda, and Shapiro just said, we don't need the money. Well, if you don't need the money, why the heck are we sending billions of dollars over there? And why the heck are these conservative networks playing commercials about this starving Jewish lady? She's starving, and she's eating porridge. Send your money to Israel. They need it so bad. They're the victims. They're the victims. You're going to save these. Will you stop with this propaganda? And this is just the beginning, folks.
Which is 5 times more than they spent on 2025.
Right, $725 million, 5 times more than the propaganda budget that they had for this year.
Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar announced this initiative as a major component, he's calling it, of national security. He says Israel cannot succeed without repairing its reputation.
Without repairing its reputation. What's wrong with your reputation? Why do you suppose you've got a bad reputation? Huh? Why do you suppose that is? Well, support for Israel is indeed collapsing. As a matter of fact, there was a poll that was taken. Let me see. It was posted on X by David Curtin. And it says here, we asked the question, which is the biggest threat to the West? Let me see. China, 12.3%. Iran, 8.5%. Russia, 6.2%. Israel, 73%. Almost 3/4 of those polled said that Israel is the greatest threat to the West. Isn't that interesting? No wonder they're thinking about pumping another $723 million into their propaganda campaign. But that's not all. No. Like I said, the reputation for Israel is well-deserved, and it's in the hopper. And let me see, who was this guy here? This is an Israeli lawyer. Let me see, I can't find his name here. But he was talking to Ann Vandersteel, I think she is. Here's what he had to say.
Support for Israel internationally has collapsed, and the worst is yet to come. The tsunami is approaching. It's not behind us. When journalists are allowed into Gaza, and we witness up close something which has not happened sufficiently, the scope of the devastation. Gaza will look like Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Dresden, and a lunar landscape. That means that the collapse of support for Israel, the major collapse, may be ahead of us.
Wow, that's interesting. And I apologize. No, that wasn't. Let me see. That was from the podcast called "State of the World" with Tara. Let me see if I can make out her name here. Tara Palmieri and Sally Lockwood. That's where that one came from. Just so you know. So, but like I said, support for Israel is just going around and round the toilet. It's going down the tubes. And this is across the board, okay? As a matter of fact, remember, I forget who it was. It was a reporter that went into the halls of Congress, and it was asking all the members of Congress, is it America first or Israel first? Well, people noticed that too.
Have you seen the dude in the hallways of Congress asking the congressmen and women, America first or Israel first? And have you seen them cower in fear at the thought of even answering that in public? Like, what the hell's going on here? Like, I'm an American congressman. America first. I work for the American people. No, so they're scared. Like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, exactly. And I was asking that question months ago. Why is it that these politicians cannot proudly stick their chest out and say, I am America first? They can't do it. They just refuse to do it. Well, let me see. How else is the support for Israel collapsing?
Pressuring social media apps to change their algorithm to suppress anti-Israel content. This is Rabbi Kaploon, the first ever ambassador to combating anti-Semitism in the U.S. government. And he has just directed social media platforms to utilize their algorithms to suppress hatred towards Israel and use AI to label those who unfairly criticize the Israeli government. By the way, he was not born in the United States of America, but is telling us what we're supposed to say online. This is affecting mainly TikTok, but also Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and X. This will be taking place in January 2026, the same January in which everyone who wants to enter the U.S. must give 5 years of their social media history to be reviewed for anti-Semitism. So a part of this program is the AI integration. It is going to be labeling users who are criticizing the Israeli government. As of now, we don't know what that means. Free speech in America is under attack, with people who aren't even born here telling us what we're supposed to think.
Exactly. So, freedom of speech? Do you have freedom of speech? Yeah, right. No, you don't. Just as long as you agree with the narrative here. As a matter of fact, even Joe Scarborough on what used to be MSNBC, they're having to admit that the support for Israel is collapsing. Listen to this.
Over 60% of Jewish Americans believe Israel has committed war crimes. Jewish Americans coming to that conclusion.
Okay, that's the Jewish Americans. Wow. If the Jews in America are condemning Israel, Israel's in big trouble. Now, what does it say, 40% here?
40% believe they have committed genocide. It's staggering. And again, the long-term implications for now, this people on the left and on the right now who are hostile to American support of Israel. That has grown. It is no longer the extremists on both sides.
No.
It is starting to move toward the center. I mean, the long-term implications for Israel and support for Israel in the United States.
So these numbers are stunning.
And this is, who was that just made that statement? David, what was his name? David Ignatius. He's an American journalist. And yes, he said these numbers are stunning. Well, yeah, you should be stunned because the support for Israel is irrational. It's irrational. As a matter of fact, let me see. There was let me see who else was there. Oh, do you remember, what was his name? Let me see if this is the right clip. I want to make sure this is the right one. No, I already did that one. Okay, I got a bunch of clips here. Mandy Patapkin. Yeah, that's what his name was. Remember Mandy Patapkin? I'm sure you know who he is. Do you remember the line, "My name is Emilio Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die." You remember that line from The Princess Bride? Yeah, well, that was Mandy Patinkin who was playing that part. Well, guess what? He's not too happy with Israel either. Listen to what he had to say. And this is he was very emotional in this one, I tell you. Let me see. Okay, let me cue this up to the beginning. Here we go.
I ask Jews all over the world to consider what this man, Benjamin Netanyahu, and his right-wing government is doing to the Jewish people all over the world.
Yes.
They are endangering the Jewish population all over the world. He is the most dangerous thing to allow this to happen to children and civilians of all ages in Gaza, for whatever reason, is unconscionable and unthinkable. And I ask you Jews everywhere, all over the world, to spend some time alone and think, is this acceptable and sustainable? How could it be done to you and your ancestors, and you turn around and you do it to someone else?
I appreciate.
Yes, boy, that was a very powerful emotional expression, wasn't it? And I agree with him. And if you're Jewish out there, for the love of God, for your own sake, for not just Jews, but Christians, you've got to stand up against Netanyahu, because what he's doing is indeed putting everybody in danger. Now, here's another guy. Here's a Jew that is basically disgusted, absolutely disgusted with what's going on over there in Palestine. And again, I say, if you're Jewish out there, you don't realize that what Netanyahu is doing is putting a target on you. Yes, the crosshairs are going to go onto the Jewish people because too many of the unwashed masses, they don't understand what's going on. They don't understand the difference between a Zionism political agenda, of genocide, of apartheid, of racism. That's what Zionism is. And all of you Christian Zionists out there, you don't realize that you're committing suicide, because Zionism is about the quote-unquote chosen people. It says right in the Balfour Declaration, it says to create a Zionist Jewish state. Zionism is racism. If you're not Jewish, and not just not Jewish, you've got to be a Talmudic Jew. Now that means if you're not one of them, you are Goyim. You are not human. You are less than a dog. That is their belief. It's not what I believe. May not be what you believe. But what's important is what they believe, what they preach in the Talmud. For those Zionist Christians out there, you need to do some freaking research. You need to find out what the heck is going on. All right, I got a call coming in. Let's see, grab this. I had another clip, but I'll put that on hold. Okay, caller, hello. Where are you calling from, and who are you?
My name's Dave, and calling from good old Arizona.
Hey, Dave, thank you. Hey, are you a first-time caller?
Yes, sir.
All right. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you on board. What's on your mind, Dave?
No, I've been following you for a while here. Listened to a lot of the different Red State shows.
Uh-huh.
And this Zionism stuff. Out of curiosity, do you know if Jared Kushner and his daughter, are they Jewish or Zionist or follow the Talmud versus the Torah?
Well,
and refresh my memory, does Jared Kushner's big building there in Manhattan not have the address of 666?
yes, it does. Yes, it does. You're absolutely correct. Now, as far as what they believe, I can't speak to that. Now, I do know that there's a lot of talk. I mean, what was it? Mark Levin was talking, was at the podium with President Trump not too long ago, this past week. And he put his arm around, says, yeah, Donald Trump is our first Jewish president. And then Trump says, that's right. Yeah, supposedly he converted to Judaism. Now, I don't know how or why he did that. And I don't know what kind of Judaism there is. There are Torah Jews, Old Testament Jews, and there are the Talmudic Jews. There are the Old Testament Hebrew Jews, and then there are Ashkenazi and Khazarian Jews. Two different animals. Two different, completely different things. And so I can't speak on regard to that, but it is terrifying to think that the Israeli influence in our government is so powerful. I mean, they got control of our Congress, our Senate. They're controlling much of the industry, medical, pharmaceutical, manufacturing, the oil companies, the gas companies. They have taken control of this country and indeed the entire West. So getting out from underneath the thumb of the Zionist agenda is going to be a real trick. So I don't know how that's going to work, but somehow people have got to smarten up and understand that if you're supporting Zionism, you are slow walking yourself into suicide, because the Zionists will kill you if you're not one of them. Simple as that. And that's what it says.
Right. And that's why I was kind of curious if you knew or find out, because isn't Jared Kushner back in the picture again with being a top negotiator with that other gentleman?
Mm-hmm.
So how much more control do you need if your son-in-law and daughter are out there on the wrong side?
Yeah.
I'm not saying they are, but it's like nobody seems to answer that question of whether they're Zionist or what they're following. So,
well, yeah. Well, this is why a lot of people that were supposedly, 100% behind Trump, are now falling away. They're saying, wait a minute. I had that problem too. I mean, remember what was it June or July when Trump had that big dinner at the White House and he sat down with Mark Zuckerberg and with Bill Gates and Sam Altman and, who else was there? He was cozying up, of course, to Palantir, and Larry Ellison. I mean, he's snuggling and cozying up to all of the Zionist movers and shakers. This is not what we voted him in for. We wanted him to drain the swamp. Drain the flippin' swamp. Has he done anything about that? Nope. Not zip. Nada. Zero. This is why a lot of people are falling away from support of Trump. And yes, it is splitting the MAGA movement. Of course, people are saying, it's all Candace Owens' fault. Candace is the one. Yeah. No, I don't think so. So anyway, what are your feelings on that subject?
Well, it's like I said, I can't seem to. I tried looking up and trying to find some stuff out about Mr. Kushner because also wasn't his dad put in prison for something? And the other thing is, aren't they big slumlords, from my understanding of running a bunch of rental properties and basically, from what I've heard, slumlords.
Yeah, I've heard so much. I can't speak on with any authority on any of those topics, but I've seen some of those posts and some of those articles in that regard. So yeah, there's a lot of questions out here about the Trump administration, his family, and the people that they're associating with, and we have very good reason to doubt their intentions, or question their intentions, I should say.
Right. It just really questions, he was in the first deal with, what was that, the Abraham Accord?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he disappears for a while. Then rumor has it he gets a bunch of money from, was it Saudi Arabia? For a big fund, and then he disappears, and then now all of a sudden he's back again.
Mm-hmm.
Who elected him?
And that's a good question. Who elected this dude anyway? And like they say, money talks and BS walks, something like that. So
then why do? And if there's things like it was just played about that. Shapiro says they don't need our money, which I could perfectly understand. Why are we sending them money when, who is it, Mrs. Adelson, just in this last little dinner thing with Levin and stuff, gave him another $250 million for his campaign? Why doesn't she send that to Israel?
Yeah. Well, let's see, $250 million. I mean, okay, that's rivals the $230 million that AIPAC gave to Donald Trump. So, he's just, padding his pockets. Is it all about making money, or are you going to save the country? This is why a lot of people are disgusted right now with Donald Trump. They're saying, what the heck? Yep. This is not why we elected you. We elected you to drain the swamp, clean up the corruption, release the Epstein files, put some people behind bars. And not one person, not one, has been, arrested. Like I've said on the show before, if a guy goes in and he robs a bank and he runs out the front door and he's running down the street and the police catch him, they arrest him right then and there. They arrest him. And then they go into this whole thing about, gathering the evidence and, having a trial and prosecuting the guy. So why don't we apply that to all the people who've committed all these crimes in Washington, D.C.? Why aren't they arrested? I want to see the perp walks. I want to see the orange jumpsuits, the ankle bracelets, the handcuffs. And a lot of millions of Americans want to see the same thing. But no, we're not getting that. We're just getting more controversy, more corruption, more juicy, scandalous stories just to keep us all distracted. Oh, and the playoffs are on. Oh, the playoffs. Oh, man, I got to follow my team. Yeah.
Yeah, it's and what is it? Trump always wants to be number one. And what was it? Made a comment here a while back about P.T. Barnum was the greatest show on earth.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mr. Trump was shooting for that position.
Well, he's putting on a good show, that's for sure. So. Okay, you got anything else for me?
No, I just basically curious because you seem to be a man full of good facts and information. And my biggest one was, like I say, I've tried doing my research on Jared, and I'm coming up empty.
Well, I'm not surprised because they are scrubbing and cleansing and editing all kinds of stuff on the internet. I mean, it's really hard to find reliable information now. And the information that's put out, you don't know if it's real or not. We got AI now putting out videos. A lot of people can't tell the difference. And they are very, very good, I must say. Some of these AI.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, you can't tell. And it's only going to get more realistic, too.
Right.
So, anyway, we are living in interesting times. And I've said this since I began my talk radio career 30 years ago. Any system that depends upon deception for its existence is destined for collapse. And that's where we're at. We can't get the truth, and the truth is being suppressed more and more and more. They're erasing history. They're changing the textbooks. They're changing the definition of words. I just gave an example of that. So we don't know what's up, what's down, what's right, what's left, what's right, what's wrong, what's day, what's night. We just don't know. All we can say is pray to God.
Yep, pray. And wasn't that a slogan of Obama's? Is once you can get the people to not trust their institutions,
yep,
and know what the truth is and who to believe, the game is won.
That's correct. Yep. So that's where we're at, unfortunately. So I don't know. Go ahead.
Are you telling me now that since the game is won, I don't have to pay my taxes anymore?
I wouldn't pay them anyway. Absolutely. So I think, the globalists want to have a reset. We heard Klaus Schwab talking about the great reset. We have to have a great reset. Well, you know what? I agree. We need a great reset, but not the same reset that he's talking about. I'm talking about the kind of reset where God looks down on the game board and sees that it's so corrupt, there's no fixing it. So he's going to take his mighty arm and just go across the game board, clear the deck, we're going to start over again. Unfortunately, I think that's where we may be,
Right. I hope it's not another great flood because I'm not a very good swimmer, but whatever has to be.
Well, yeah, and of course there's all the talk about 3-Eye Atlas. What's this going to bring? Are they setting us up for Operation Blue Beam and a false alien invasion? Or is this thing for real? Is this a big nothing burger? I don't know. But I have no doubt whatsoever that, they say that never miss the opportunity to make use of a crisis. So sometimes they have to create the crisis. So we may be looking at that. I don't know. We're going to have to see how this is going to work out. But anyway, hey, listen, thanks for being a first-time caller on the WTF Reports. I hope to hear from you again.
Yes, sir. No, and enjoy your show immensely.
Oh, well, thank you. We'll spread the word and do business with our advertisers. Pick up a T-shirt or a baseball cap or, a coffee mug. And, one of the things. So
sounds good.
All right. Thank you much, Dave. God bless. You have a good one, and I look forward to hearing from you again.
God bless.
All righty.
God bless.
All right. Be healthy. Be free above all else. Oh, my gosh. Well, that's good. I'm glad to get a new caller coming in. Anyway, back into this issue about, how it's so important that Christians and Jews understand that the actions being taken by Netanyahu and his regime, they do not represent the values of God's commandments. The actions by Israel are going to put every Jew in the crosshairs, and we're seeing that across the board. There's an increase now, of violence against people of the Jewish faith. And it's through no fault of their own. Most of these Jews don't have a flaming clue. Most Jews, like most Christians, I mean, I don't care if you're Catholic or Protestant or Baptist or whatever, how many of you can quote page, line, and verse from the Bible? I'm willing to bet that none of you can. So maybe there's an exception to it, yeah. But for the most part, most Christians, they know a few of the passages. They've read some of the Bible or most of it. The same thing could be said about a lot of the Jews. They're not all that devout. They're not all that, entrenched in their scripture. They're Jewish because they were born Jewish. Or you're Catholic because you were born Catholic. That's my situation. I was baptized Catholic when I was a baby. But as I grew up, yes, I went to Sunday school, and I attended catechism and all that. But when you're a kid, that doesn't really mean anything. It's just a story. It's not till you're an adult. That's why they say in the Christian faith you have to be born again. You have to be baptized again. Okay, once you're an adult and you have the brains to understand what you're getting involved with, then that's when it counts. But the bottom line here, most Jews, most Christians, they're Christians or Jews. I don't want to say in name only because that sounds like an insult. I don't mean to insult people. But the bottom line here is most people have no flaming clue. None. Zero. Zip. Nada. And what's happening right now with Israel, and like I said, if you're a Christian and you're a Christian Zionist, you better do some research. You need to find out what Zionism really is. You need to understand that. And the same thing with the folks of the Jewish faith. You need to understand the difference between the Torah and the Talmud. The Talmud is not good. Not good for anybody. And that's why I'm saying, the actions being taken by Israel, by Bibi Netanyahu and his murderous regime of imposters. They're imposters. They are not the Jews. Anyway, there are more and more people that are noticing this. And I want to share with you a clip. Now, here's a guy that's really upset. He understands. He's Jewish. And he's basically putting out the warning. He's waving the red flag. He's sounding the alarm. And here he is.
I'm Jewish, and I never thought I'd feel the amount of disgust and rage I felt at my own community over the past year and a half, but especially the last few months. The amount of pathetic, manipulative self-victimization boggles my mind, because how is it not enough for you? How is it not enough for you that millions of people have lost their homes, that hundreds of thousands of people have lost their lives, that the United States government signs off completely and unconditionally on all of it, that one Israeli life is given the same weight, more than 1,000 Palestinian lives, and that people lose their jobs for speaking out against it? How is that not enough? How do you still feel the need to hunt down college students and have them deported for sitting on a lawn and holding a sign because they felt moved by seeing a video of someone dig their child out of rubble, or seeing people gunned down while getting water? Children in Gaza are having their limbs amputated without anesthesia, and you have the absolute nerve to tell people they should feel bad for you because you had to see a piece of graffiti. God forbid. You're living in this world where up is down, left is right, an Instagram story is violence, but a bullet in a toddler's skull is not, and you're making the rest of us live in it with you. The only thing I can hope is that you wake up one day and realize what you've done, and it torments you every second for the rest of your miserable life. You sicken me to my core as a Jew and as a human being. I will continue to call myself Jewish because I don't want you to be the only kind of Jewish person that there is, but never again in my life will it be something I'm proud of.
Wow. So this is exactly what I'm saying. He's just illustrating through his words exactly what I'm saying. Those of the Jewish faith out there, I beg of you, do some soul searching. And understand that you have been propagandized to support a regime that is not acting in your interests. Jews all over the world are being placed in mortal danger because of the acts of this murderous, psychopathic, sadistic regime. I don't know what else to say about that. And as a matter of fact, let me see. There was another one. Oh, yeah. They were talking to a young woman in Israel, and this is just, let me see. I want to pause this. It's only a few seconds, but this reflects the attitude of a lot of the people in Israel who, again, have been propagandized from birth. They have been propagandized to hate the Arabs, hate the Muslims, hate anybody who is not in line with your religious faith. And this is sad. I feel bad. This is a young girl. I would probably say she's in her early 20s. But she's a product of a monstrous society. Listen to what she says.
Just think we need to kill them, every one of them, and that's it.
Kill every one of them, and that's it.
And if not that, because the country will not let that happen, the government. Just the least we can do is just kick them out of our land, because this is our home, this is our land, and we deserve it.
Yeah, this is our land. Well, wait a second. Where did you come from? Where did your family come from? And again, I refer to the Hopkins University study that they did, the ancestry study, and found that 97.5% of the Israelis are of Eastern European and North American descent. That means only 2.5% are indigenous, or shall I say the real Jews, or the real Hebrews, whatever. And I would have to say that if you apply that towards, the amount of people who are, shall we say, influential in our government, in our society, I would have to say that it's the same ratio. All these, look at the population of the United States. Only 2.5% are claim to be Jewish, and yet you look at that, and it's funny, isn't that the same percentage of the Johns Hopkins University? So 2.5% of the American people are Jewish, and yet you look at the percentage of the control of all of our major institutions. How is it that like 95, 96, 97% of those in charge of CBS have that blue star next to them. Same thing with NBC. Same thing with ABC. Same thing with CNN. Same thing with Fox. Same thing with Pfizer. Same thing with, you just name it. They have taken over the country. Same thing. What's the percentage of the members of Congress? I think there's only 10 members out of the 585 members of Congress. There's only 10 of them that didn't take AIPAC money. So, I mean, you apply those percentages, and it's terrifying because we have the people who have a murderous, genocidal, pathological, sadistic motive, and they're in charge of everything. Maybe that explains how they got away with the hokey-pokey thingy-dingy. That's another show altogether. We covered that earlier this week. And by the way, I do apologize for having to do a replay yesterday. We had some severe weather rolling through the area here, and a lot of people lost power. Luckily, I didn't completely lose power, but just before I would have been going on the air, my lights were flickering. So I figured it'd be safer to just go ahead and do a replay yesterday rather than get halfway through the show and get thrown off the air. But anyway, that's as an aside note. But I didn't mean to spend the entire hour talking about this, but this is so important. This is probably the most important issue that we can face today because the fate of all humanity lies in the balance now. And that's not an exaggeration. And again, if you've only got, a very, very small percentage of a particular group, and in this case, we're talking about the quote-unquote Jews. And of course, I'm not talking about the original Hebrews. I'm talking about the fakers, the imposters. They are controlling him. Just look at what's happened to the Trump administration. Look who he's got around him. Okay? I mean, they're all basically wearing that blue star. And how the heck are we, how can you serve your country when you say you're going to serve Israel first? It just doesn't make sense to me. And like I said, people are noticing across the board, how much control that this individual group has. As a matter of fact, my late friend Ted Gunderson, he and I spent many, many, many hours together. And all the years that I was a keynote speaker, like I was just saying in the beginning of the show, when back in the mid 2000s, after the 9/11 In Plain Sight and documentaries came out, I was on the front lines for alternative news. I was right there, with Alex Jones and Chuck Harder and Tom Valentine and the late Bill Cooper. I mean, they took him out. But the bottom line here is that, I was on the front lines. And I was, rubbing elbows and talking with all the movers and shakers and stuff like that. And Ted Gunderson was one of them. And Ted and I spent many, many hours talking, after we would be at a speaking event and go back to the hotel. And anyway, this is a quick clip from Ted Gunderson.
I personally investigated the Oklahoma City bombing case. Huge cover-up. Jack Kennedy's assassination, huge cover-up. Bobby Kennedy's assassination, huge cover-up. World Trade Center, huge cover-up. Mm-hmm. Okay. Terrorism. They're using it as an excuse to take away our constitutional rights and our civil liberty. Mm-hmm. The Illuminati, Bilderberg, New World Order, globalists are the element behind this.
Yeah, the bankers. And what ethnicity are those bankers?
It dovetails into the satanic movement, and this movement has infiltrated into our intelligence community, the once great FBI and the CIA. I have, in the past, had personal contact with an individual who was head of the CIA hit squad. He had over 3,000 individuals around the world he could call upon to go out and kill somebody.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Ted. All right, that's going to wrap it up for the Thursday edition of the WTF Reports. I sincerely hope that you're enjoying the information and the delivery. And if you are, and you're listening on Rumble or BitChute or Facebook or YouTube, please click like, share, subscribe, and spread the word through word of mouth, because that's the best advertising. And again, if you're enjoying the program, hey, support our advertisers. Go to our website, TheWTFReports.com, and buy something. All right, that said, we're out of here. God bless you all. Stay safe, stay free, and above all else, I'll see you tomorrow. God bless you all.